Have you ever noticed your dog quietly walking into the room, only to look at you for a second before leaving again? No barking, no request for attention, no clear reason. Sometimes they stop at the doorway without even approaching. Sometimes they briefly make eye contact, as if confirming something silently, before disappearing back into the house again. Most people barely think about it. The behavior feels normal, routine, easy to dismiss as habit or curiosity. But in many cases, something much deeper is happening underneath that tiny interaction. Because dogs do not experience attachment like the humans do. They do not always express closeness through constant touch, excitement, or visible affection. Instead, much of their bonding happens through awareness. Once a dog becomes emotionally attached to someone, that person slowly becomes part of the dog's internal sense of safety and environmental stability, which means even while resting, even while doing something else entirely, even while appearing calm and independent, a part of the dog is still quietly tracking where you are. Not obsessively, not dramatically, quietly. And those brief moments when your dog silently checks on you may reveal far more about canine attachment, emotional regulation, and trust than most people realize. The difference between watching and monitoring. Humans often assume attention only matters when it looks obvious. Eye contact, excitement, physical affection. But dogs evolved to monitor social movement long before they lived inside human homes. In social animals, survival depends partly on knowing where important individuals are located, not through constant staring, but through subtle awareness. That awareness never fully disappears. It simply changes form inside domestic life. This is why many dogs seem relaxed one moment, then suddenly stand up and walk into another room just to locate their human. Not because they urgently need something, not because they're anxious, but because their brain maintains an ongoing sense of social positioning. To humans, the behavior appears insignificant. To the dog, it restores orientation. You are part of the environment they emotionally organize around. And once that bond forms deeply enough, absence becomes psychologically noticeable, even if only for a few minutes. Why dogs check without making contact? One of the strangest parts of this behavior is how minimal it often is. Some dogs don't approach. They simply look into the room. Others walk past slowly. Some briefly make eye contact before leaving again. The interaction itself is tiny, but emotionally, the information matters. Dogs gather reassurance through confirmation. You are still here. Nothing has changed. The environment remains stable. Humans often expect reassurance to look emotional and dramatic. But in animals, reassurance is frequently quiet. A visual confirmation, a familiar sound, a known movement pattern, a breathing rhythm. That may be enough. This is also why many dogs repeatedly reposition themselves throughout the day, not necessarily to stay close, but to maintain awareness. In the wild, losing track of important social members could create vulnerability. Inside the home, the ancient system still exists. Only now it expresses itself through tiny domestic rituals humans rarely notice. Your dog may be regulating themselves through you. For deeply bonded dogs, humans often become emotional reference points. Not just companions, not just providers, regulators. Dogs constantly absorb environmental tension, movement speed, noise changes, posture shifts, emotional atmosphere. And because of this, many dogs quietly use their humans to measure whether things are safe. A calm human can stabilize a nervous dog. A tense human can silently unsettle one. This means checking on you is sometimes less about affection and more about emotional calibration. The dog briefly observes you, reads the environment through you, then adjusts their own internal state accordingly. This is especially common in sensitive dogs. Dogs that notice routines intensely. Dogs that react strongly to emotional tone. Dogs that seem unusually aware of household changes. They are not simply existing beside humans. They are continuously interpreting them. Why this behavior often happens at night. Many owners notice the behavior becomes stronger after dark. The dog wakes up, walks through the house, checks where everyone is, then returns to sleep. To humans, it can seem random, but nighttime changes environmental certainty. Vision decreases, movement patterns change. The home becomes quieter and less predictable. For social animals, Brief location checks restore psychological stability. This is also why some dogs sleep facing doorways. Why others reposition themselves between rooms. Why some wake the moment a human changes position in bed. Their brain is continuously updating the social map. Not because danger is necessarily present, but because bonded presence itself has become part of the dog's sense of security. When checking becomes anxiety. Not all monitoring is unhealthy. In fact, mild social checking is extremely normal in bonded dogs. But there is an important difference between quiet awareness and panic-based attachment. A regulated dog checks, then relaxes. An anxious dog checks, but cannot emotionally settle afterward. The difference is not the act itself. It's whether the dog can return to calm once reassurance is received. Healthy attachment creates flexibility. Separation anxiety creates distress. Many emotionally secure dogs simply like maintaining awareness of important people, just as humans unconsciously glance around for loved ones in crowded spaces. The behavior becomes concerning only when absence creates escalating panic, inability to rest, destructive behavior, or severe stress responses. But quiet check-ins by themselves are often signs of social bonding, not dysfunction. Why humans often miss the meaning. Part of the reason people misunderstand this behavior is because humans tend to value obvious affection, jumping, tail wagging, excitement, physical closeness. But many of the deepest canine attachment behaviors are subtle. A dog sleeping near an exit. A dog repositioning to keep you within awareness. A dog briefly walking into the room just to see you. A dog relaxing after hearing your footsteps. These behaviors do not demand attention. They simply reveal emotional orientation. And because they are quiet, humans often overlook them completely. But from the dog's perspective, these tiny moments may be woven into the structure of emotional safety itself. No need to touch. Your dog may not always need touch. They may not constantly seek interaction. They may not follow you every second. But somewhere in the background of their mind, they are still keeping track of you. Quietly, repeatedly, almost invisibly. Not because they are trying to control you. Not because they are endlessly needy. But because once a dog emotionally bonds with someone, that person slowly becomes part of how the world feels stable. And sometimes love in dogs does not appear as excitement. Sometimes it appears as a brief pause at the doorway, a quick glance into the room, a silent confirmation that you are still there, before they quietly disappear again. And maybe that is why these moments often feel so easy to miss. Because the deepest attachment behaviors in dogs are rarely dramatic. They do not always announce themselves through excitement or constant affection. Sometimes they appear as something much quieter. A dog resting more peacefully after hearing your footsteps in another room. A dog briefly waking at night just to locate where you are. A dog silently checking the doorway before settling down again. No need to touch. No need to demand attention. Only the quiet reassurance that the person they emotionally organize around is still nearby. And for many dogs, that small confirmation is enough to make the world feel stable again.